today is I've worked at a local store before. Kandace has also worked at a local store before. She's also done maintenance and service. And we kind of decided to just reflect back on our experience of working in the store and look at this big warehouse of stuff here at VASCA and think, what water pumps would we wind up stocking on the shelves? There's lots of them here, and which ones are the ones that we think would do well on a store shelf, that would sell well, that would make customers happy, and what would we choose if we had a shop today? So with that, Kandace, what's the first pump you picked out?
So for my first pump today on Stock Talk, I am choosing the Octo Various 2. One of the reasons I like this pump is, it's external and it's you can submerge it as well. It's controllable. It's got 5 different speeds, which is really nice. And then it's also, you can hook it up to your Neptune Apex, so you can control it from your phone, which is awesome nowadays. Everything's on your phone, so it just makes one thing a little easier. Another thing I loved about it is it has a emergency float valve that you can actually hook up to it. So if something were to happen to your aquarium and the sump started to overflow, or emergencies, like things like that happen. So this will actually set off an alarm and let you know if you're having an issue with, overflowing. So that's another really nice thing I love about this pump. So doing service, you get a lot of calls like that because you just never know what's gonna happen. So it's just a nice pump for that. So.
Yeah, so I actually have the big brother of this guy. I have a big Varios 8 at home, and I think this too is the same pump in the BioCube behind us. So there's some things I like about this pump. First off, it is very, very small. Mm-hmm. It's pretty hard to find an 800-gallon-hour pump that's as small as this pump is. So if you do have a lot of all-in-one tanks at the shop, like BioCube behind us, or maybe it's a Lifeguard or Innovative Marine, there's more of a chance of you being able to fit this small DC pump than a lot of other ones on the market. Mm-hmm. Another thing I found with Reef Octopus in general versus some of the others is that when DC pumps first started coming out, a lot really weren't reliable and had a lot of reliability problems with the power supplies going bad or other things shorting out. And these Varios pumps have done very well. My pump at home is probably 3 years old and hasn't really missed a beat, and I don't think I've cleaned it ever, even though I probably should. Same thing with this one here, it just keeps going. So if you're wanting a DC pump with those Apex features, I think it's one of the most reliable options. And I think the small size is great for small nano tanks if you have a lot of those in the shop and you want a high-end pump to upgrade for customers.
It's a really cool pump.
So kind of a little different than those really high-end pumps that kind of get nerdy people like us excited. The first pump I chose was this Quiet One 400. And the reason I chose this was, first off, I know when you're at the shop, sometimes you don't have that much capital and you'd like to put stuff on the shelves, you don't have that much space. This pump sells for about $9 wholesale and generally retails for about $13 online if you want to match that. But easily in the shop, I think you get $15 for it. And what I like about this pump is I cannot remember how many times somebody came to the shop looking for something like this. This is a 100-gallon-hour pump with a half-inch outlet, and I just remember people coming in the shop looking for an auto top-off pump because their ATO didn't include one. I remember them coming in saying, I need something to power my media reactor, and this is just the perfect pump for that. They come in saying, I need something to mix salt in my 5-gallon bucket. I remember people coming in who didn't have aquariums at all and had little fountains and wondered if we had pumps. And this kind of fills all of those roles in a very affordable pump that any store can afford to have on the shelves. And because it fits so many use cases, I just think it's something that everybody should have. Something you should have to be able to help out with all those different uses. Have you used these at all, Kandace?
I actually have one at home. This is my salt mixing pump. So yes.
Yeah, in many ways, these little quiet ones I think are just little workhorses. Yeah. You can mix salt. I think they power some of the media reactors we have here, and just a good thing to have.
Easy to clean too, which I love. Just pop the top off, pull the little impeller out. So yeah, a nice pump. Nice job, Jaron.
Yeah, well, what else you got?
All right, so I guess another pump that I have. It's another Octo pump. Slightly bigger version of the one I just showed you guys. So this one actually does, I believe, 1720 gallons per hour. So it's a little bit bigger. Again, it's another controllable pump. Same thing, 5 different speeds. The reason I chose this pump is because it's 2 sizes up from the the Varios 2, so it gives you another option for other sizes for your customers and clients. I believe this one too can be hooked up to a Neptune.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they can all be hooked up to Neptune. So for like service people like I used to be, that was just a huge plus for me. It just made things a lot easier. I could just pull up the app on my phone, so shut it off, I could turn it up, turn it down, anything. So yep, just another awesome pump, just slightly bigger. So
yeah, and I think one question a lot of people have, at least I get it when I talk
Yeah.
to shops on the phone, is, if I say, this is a great pump, and they go,
Yeah.
well, there's 12 sizes, which ones are the right ones?
choose these two.
So we've tried to pick some sizes that make a lot of sense. Where
Yeah.
if you're only going to put a few, these are the ones we would choose.
Mm.
I think, Kandace, you're right on the 2. The 2 is very small, and a lot of people who couldn't fit other pumps can fit the 2. Has a decent flow rate. I think it's great for all-in-ones and small tanks. What I like about this 6 is this 6 is a little bigger than I would normally do. Generally, I do around an 800 to 1,000 gallon an hour pump because it can start to overwhelm some drains. But with all of these DC pumps, first off, they don't handle head pressure quite as well. So compared to some of the AC pumps that I might show later, it may not deliver quite as much actual flow in the tank.
Right.
And secondly, it's controllable. So a lot of people who want the maximum flow, if it's too much, you just press that down button and
Yeah.
you can fix it.
Right.
And it also appears there's this trend in the industry of like flow wars where even though a smaller pump may work fine, a lot of customers like to know they had like the biggest, most powerful
I know,
pump.
right?
So I think this is a good size where it's not total overkill, but
Yeah.
it gives some breathing room, and because it's controllable, you can fill a lot.
And
of
it gives
space.
that person that option that if they ever want to upgrade their tank, they have a pump that they can move
Yeah,
up
you
to
can
the
always
next
just
tank.
push the plus button and move it up.
Exactly. It's really nice.
All right, for the next pump I chose another Lifeguard pump, and this is a Lifeguard 2200. So generally when people ask what I think of the Lifeguard pumps, my description is they are the cheapest pump I would consider buying. And I know that's not a glowing recommendation, but I do know at the shop when I was working there, people come in and they have a limited budget. However, I don't want to sell them garbage. I don't want to sell them a pump they're going to take home that's not going to work, it's going to break. Animals are going in this tank. I want it to consistently work to keep them alive, but I understand people are on a budget. And I really think the Quiet One series is really good at occupying that niche of affordable, but it works. It's a good, reliable pump. The specific reason why I chose this model, the 2200, is thinking back to what I mainly used this kind of pump for. I mainly used it as a return pump. And I believe, from my experience, anytime I went over that 600 gallon an hour mark on tanks with 1-inch drains, or like the smaller Red Sea tanks with the 225 millimeter drains, anything greater than this just seemed like total overkill. It overwhelmed the drain and made the tank very loud. So because there's so many people with drilled 55, 75s, 90s, I like this pump because it is the perfect size for that. It's at an affordable price point. And again, for shops who are overwhelmed with all the sizes, this is the size that I would stock to occupy that niche. Any tank up to 100 gallons with a single 1-inch drain. I think it's a great size return pump. Very affordable. There is decent margin in these as well. It's about a 30%, which is about industry standard for pumps. So that's the reason I chose it. Have you used these all, Kandace? Have you tried the Lifeguard?
I have. I have used the one that kind of comes with the media reactors. The
Yeah,
Lifeguard
little
reactors.
ones.
Yeah, so mostly just reactors, and then I keep one at home for mixing, but I have the smaller one. So.
Yeah. These are decent. Again, nerdy people like us may not get excited by them. We get excited by pumps with apex control and all these other things. But I'll tell you, at the shop, for every one of those fancy apex controlled pumps, I sold at least 4 or 5 of these.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was picking one to go on the shelves, this would be the one for me.
Yeah.
What else you got, Kandace?
Alright, so the next pump I have is a high door pump. So I love high door personally because ever since I got in the hobby, that was one of the first pumps that I used. I'm actually more familiar with their power heads, but something that's really nice about this is, again, it's another controllable pump. So I'm huge on control, and I like being able to change the speeds of everything. Depending on what kind of coral or fish you're keeping in your tank, you can keep a nice flow in there with this kind of a pump. So one thing that's nice about this one here is it retails for about $235 and wholesales for I think about $100 under that. So So you are actually getting a nice profit out of this if you were to sell this in your store, like especially versus like the Ecotech Vectra, whereas that one kind of retails for like $475, I believe. So it's about $100 difference, and it does. I think it does more flow than
a lot of the competitors.
Than a lot of their competitors, yeah, exactly.
When it comes to like flow per dollar, it's
Yeah.
really hard to beat these Hydor Cells pumps.
Yeah.
Especially if you're saying flow per dollar with a controllable pump.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to beat these. Another thing I like about these is the larger pumps, like the 1600, are not DC pumps. They're controllable AC pumps.
Right.
And because of that, there's less failure points. There's no power supply to fail on them, or that you have to mount in the stand in some weird place. It just simply plugs in, but you do have the variable speed.
Yeah.
And I really like that. The smaller ones you don't have here are really, 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 really small. They're the smallest controllable pumps I know of.
So cute.
Those are DC,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you want something really small, I don't think there's anything smaller. But I do agree that this is a great option.
Yeah.
Just flow per dollar. If somebody wants a big controllable pump, it's pretty much impossible to beat.
And quiet.
And like you said, you make money on it.
Yeah,
There's a lot more
nice.
margin than some of the others. So
This is an awesome pump
great
right
choice.
here, so thank you. Oh, and it's made in Italy, which is even cooler. All right, Jaron, what do you have next?
So I had another quiet one. So I know I have a lot of quiet ones here. And part of that is I like to keep some consistency in the shop and offer a few things. I said I had the small guy, the 400 for little media reactors and salt mixing and whatnot. This guy here, the 2200 for tanks as a return pump under 100 gallons. This 3000 is my choice for tanks up to 200 to 300 gallons. Now I know when some people see this, they're gonna think that's pretty small.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why, is most standard tanks that people are gonna buy, whether it's an Aqueon tank, a Marineland tank, a Red Sea tank, they're gonna come with two 1-inch drains, or like the Red Seas come with two 32 millimeter drains. And I find if I push more than about 800 gallons an hour through those drains, the tank just gets very loud, it's uncomfortable, the customers will complain about gurgling noises. So while if you did have a complete custom tank, you could go with a bigger pump because you could have bigger drains. If you're selling standard aquariums, any tank that's standard really up to 300 gallons, I think this is the right size for you. Same as other quiet ones, very affordable, reliable if someone's on a budget. I think it's a good choice. And again, if you're wondering, of all these different ones, which one should I have? I would really just keep these three quiet ones. The little one for reactors, one for up to 100 gallon returns, and then one for 200 to 300 gallons, and just call it good. If you're buying someone a custom tank, you can special order them a custom pump, but these are the ones I have on the shelf.
I think those are pretty popular tank sizes, and the customers will be very happy to hear about the prices.
Yeah.
Okay, so another pump that I have chosen is a Little Giant pump. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with these. They've been around for who knows how many years now. Coming up maybe like 20 or so years, maybe longer.
Pretty much forever.
Yeah, since I got in the hobby, I've seen these all over the place. So to me, that just shows that it's gonna be a long-lasting pump. A lot of people don't want to have to keep replacing their pump after years, or after a couple years or so. The only thing is this is an external pump only. It is a DC?
It's an AC pump.
An AC pump, yeah.
So it's not going to have that power brick or a separate controller.
That's right, yeah. So you literally just plug it in. But it's also, I mean, they're just really reliable. They're long lasting. The nice thing about this one that I chose is it has great head pressure, which is good for moving through filters such as like a nuclear, like a canister filter, or maybe like a UV sterilizer. It's great for flow. Like if you need a good, strong, long-lasting pump, people are gonna want to buy this one. Like it's a nice pump. So any comments?
Yeah,
like to add to it?
basically anytime you need a pump that needs head pressure, this is a great option.
Yeah.
I remember at the shop we used to work at together, we had an RO reservoir in the back of the shop and a salt water reservoir in the front of the shop.
Yeah.
And we needed a pump to pump between them. And it was probably something like, I don't know, to go up and then over, maybe like 40 feet of head.
Yeah.
And the Little Giant 4 could do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would be the case of a lot of the other pumps we're showing you today. So anytime you need a pump that has some head pressure behind it, Little Giants are a great option. And like you said, they do last a while. I was thinking,
I can take care of them.
the old 90-gallon tank I bought from you years ago, that you bought from a former client of ours,
Yeah.
I think the little giant pump in that tank is over 20 years old, and it still runs and it's still quiet, and nobody has complained to me about it being loud, and the flow still seems good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're looking for something that's going to last a really long time, it's going to handle that head pressure, really nothing else touches these guys. They're just going to be a great choice for
It's a
you.
workhorse. All right.
Kind of moving on, some of my other pumps, I chose some Rossmont pumps. And just like I did the lifeguard, I picked a couple sizes. The first one is the Rossmont 550. So I chose this size because, again, that 550 is about what I find to be right for that tank's less than 100 gallons with a single 1-inch drain, or 225 millimeters if you have some like the Red Sea kits. More than that tends to overwhelm them, make them loud, and I like to keep things simple. So if your staff members at the shop, they wonder what size pump, this is the size that'll fit those tanks. What I really like about these Rossmont pumps, for people who aren't familiar with them, is these pumps are made in Italy. They have a 2-year warranty. They have decent margin, about a 30%, like most of the other pumps we've shown you today. We try to focus on some good margin ones. And they're designed by Italian pump makers who have made a lot of different pumps for a long time. And what I learned is when they worked for other companies, which I won't name at the moment, that you've probably heard of, they felt they were really constrained, that, basically financial analysts said you have to make the pumps these way for economics. They said, no, this is the way we have always wanted to make a pump. And speaking to them at Macna, speaking to Mattia and the people at Rossmont, really realized that their pumps are a passion project for them, where they really got to make an aquarium pump the way they've always made it. These are really, really quiet pumps. They're affordable. They're going to be more expensive than like the lifeguards, but they're not crazy expensive. I believe this pump sells for right around $90 retail, which is very reasonable for what it is. And then the cool thing is you can control these with the Rossmont waiver controller. So what I kind of like about these is you can almost have 2 pumps in one. For the customer who doesn't want to spend extra money on a controller to control it from their smartphone, just wants to plug it in and have it work, you just sell them the pump. And then if you want to sell a controllable pump, you just sell them a pump and waiver, and then they have a controllable pump. So you can offer a wide variety of products just by having that waiver as an extra for anybody who wants it. But have you used these all, Kandace? Familiar with them at all, or have any thoughts?
It's a very new pump to me, actually, because I used to use the brand that they used to have, you know what I mean? So no, I'm actually not very familiar with them, but I love the fact that you can make it controllable, because I am one of those nerds that just loves everything to be on my phone, and I can control it from there. So
yeah, what I've learned is there's really 2 kinds of customers. There's the customer who comes in and goes, if it's not controllable with my phone, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And then there's the customer who comes in and goes, if I have to use my phone, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So I just really like how this kind of occupies both.
It does both.
Where if you have this and a controller, you can kind of fill both of those niches, and you also can have an upgrade path where maybe now you don't care about it being controlled by your phone, but you can add that later. And I think it's just a great product because it fills a lot of those roles.
It's very pretty too, and I like how small it is, so I can put it in my all-in-one tank at home.
Yeah, this can fit in a lot of all-in-ones. We actually have it in the other BioCube on the other side of the office, so it does fit a lot of places.
So, for the last pump that I've chosen is the Owasa pump. So this is kind of a newer pump in the hobby. It's a German-made pump, but made in Italy. So it's actually more for ponds, but the awesome thing about this pump that was really the selling point is that the shaft on the impeller is actually completely titanium. So because it is a pond pump, these things will be sucking up a lot of debris, like rocks and who knows what else. So the nice thing about that is that the impeller will actually last a lot longer than most impellers nowadays. So that's just one of the things that I loved about this pump.
Yeah, this is what I found. We've had some customers come in and say, I specifically want a pump with the titanium shaft.
Really?
And this is about the only one right now. There's not many pumps that still have those that aren't ginormous, huge industrial pumps. So the Owasa is really good at that. If you're looking for a pump for like mixing salt where it could suck chunks of stuff in, be really good. And the other thing is when these first came out, again, they're mainly outdoor pumps. I've actually used one at a little fountain in my backyard at home. And I've seen it suck all kinds of gross stuff in. And and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So it is really good for that, for working in those adverse conditions. If you're looking for a pump of that kind, it's not going to break, and whether it be salt mixing, whether it be outdoor because you do some pond stuff as well, or simply you have a sump that's not clean.
Yeah.
I think it may be a really good choice for you.
Some people don't, you know, with a lot of pumps that don't have the completely titanium impeller, is that once they go out, a lot of people don't really want to replace it, and they'll just go through the hassle.
Yeah, they
of
won't
buying
replace the impeller.
They'll just buy
toss it.
another pump. Yeah, so this one is going to be a lot longer lasting. So I think it's another workhorse pump. So
cool.
All right.
Yeah, for my last one, I had a second Rosmont pump. So they had the 550 as the first one. This one is the 850. Similar to why I had two Quiet One pumps. I think that the 850 is the right size pump for any tank with two 1-inch drains or a single 1.5 inch, or like the Red Sea 2 32 millimeter drains.
Yeah.
And again, my experience working at the shop, we had a lot of employees at the shop, and you talk to one employer, they recommend one thing, pick someone else, they recommend something else. And I think sometimes it's good just to not confuse customers, keep things simple. So this would be my recommendation for any pump for a return, really from 1 to 200-300 gallons. If you had any standard tank with two 1-inch drains, I think if you go any bigger than this, it's going to get really loud. And if the tank is smaller than that, then you go next size down to that 550. Just like the other one, you can add that waiver on, make it controllable, have it do feed modes, so you can speed up or slow down. But this pump retails for just under $100. I think it's like $99. It has some decent margin in it as well. And I think that price point is going to be very appealing to people. Where if you get a pump with a 2-year warranty that's made in Italy, that's quiet, and can be controlled later for $100, especially when some of the DC pumps, which are very nice, but they're going to have a price tag of maybe triple that cost. I just think this is a really good choice, and it's something that I would want to have on the shelves to occupy that niche.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if you guys liked what you saw today, liked looking at Stock Talk, what we would stock if we had a store today, please feel free to continue subscribing to the VASCA emails. You can go ahead and look for future videos, future articles. Should be an article linked below that will have all the individual links to the pumps we talked about today, so you can learn more about them and find out what you need to do to order them. Thank you very much.